Hi, welcome to the Shepherd's Rest Doc Talk. This is episode 62B.
I'm Cam and this is Jilly.
Yes, this is the B'rit Hadashah, or the New Testament discussion of this week's Torah portion. And this week's reading is found in Luke, 23, 26 through 56. But of course, we're going to go all over the place.
Okay.
We're not going to stay right there, but we're going to use it as our guideline.
Right, it's our diving board.
But what's funny is I'm going to start in Mark. Mark 15:20 says, after ridiculing him, meaning Yeshua, they stripped him of the purple and dressed him in his clothes, and they brought him out to be crucified. Now, I want to talk about, I know we touched on this last year a little bit, but Antiochus Epiphanes is the one that brought crucifixion to the area of Judea. Mm-hmm. Now, we know it started way back in the Persian Empire, but Antiochus Epiphanes is the one that really
he made it
used
popular.
it. Yes, and he used it to terrorize the Jewish people to not do Torah. See, the Persians did it as punishment for their laws. Antiochus Epiphanes did it to terrorize the people to be anti-Torah and assimilate. There is kind of a difference here. So what he would do is he would have the men whipped with the rods, and then he would crucify them. And then the women who circumcised their children, he would strangle them and their kids, then hang them on a tree with their kids around their neck as to say, see this? Don't do it. Do not circumcise your kids. And the fact that he was able to continue doing it means that people were still under the penalty of death fearing the Lord more than man.
Right. Yeah.
So I think about today, how dangerous is it for us who live here in the United States, where all we're going to do is get a little snubbing from friends and family, and we don't want to do what the Lord has to say. It's almost harder for us to do it than it is for them. You know, what do they say? When you're persecuted, that's when the oil really starts flowing.
Yeah,
right?
And you know, if you think about it, in the Middle East, people are dying every day.
Yes.
They are being crucified every day because of
beheaded.
Because of their decision to walk according to what they know in the Word.
Right. And so a pattern I saw here was it took the Maccabees, we all know the story of Hanukkah, the Maccabees to stand up and say, no, we're not going to take this
anymore.
The Maccabees wanted to do what was right in the Lord's eyes. That's very important. So they stood as a small group and fought, and the Lord was with them, and they won. Right? I think of our country.
They did.
It was a small band of people that wanted to do what the Lord said to do.
Right.
They got together and they fought, and the Lord was with them. Right? So in their instance, 200 years later, they had 200 some years later, Messiah walked among them and did it perfectly. What they started, what they fought for back there, Messiah did perfectly. And I think of our country, you know, just as a pattern, you had a group that wanted to fight, and they stood up for what was right, and now we see the body coming forth in the middle of perversion, because Israel was completely perverted just about by the time Messiah got there, right?
Right. And I was saying, you have to remember that the Lord did raise nations all throughout history to fulfill his purpose. So, absolutely, America, I completely concur that America was raised for her purpose.
Right. Okay, and why is that? Because it was Jerusalem, and then to Samaria, and then to the nations.
Yeah.
Right? So now as we go bookends, we're going to go the nations, Samaria, Jerusalem. And I think we're in between the nations and Samaria because we're understanding the role of the northern kingdom.
Yeah.
That's what Samaria was.
Right.
The
and
northern
kingdom.
Coming in. We're all going in, and we're like, oh, wait, it's the northern kingdom.
Oh, my gosh, that's
we
good.
started walking in, and now we're...
Well, in the Torah portion, we have where part of the curse is being scattered. But the blessings is being gathered back in.
Absolutely.
So,
that's what we're having.
So, like you said a week or so ago, when the body starts walking properly, we start moving back into that coming together. No wonder people, the Aliyah, the going into Israel has already started. That's not the final show.
Well, it's physical representation of what's happening spiritually. Because spiritually, we are coming back in.
Right. We're walking,
and I've been
going into the blessing.
Tremendously convicted the last few weeks that this next Torah cycle, we're really going to concentrate on, okay, now you understand the importance of my ways. Yeah. Now, do them. What does it look like? And we're really going to go through every week showing God willing, we're going to be faithful.
Yeah, there's 613 of them.
613 commandments, and we're going to make sure which the ones that line up with the Torah portions that we talk about or touch on.
Well, yes, and we're going to have to spread it out a little bit more because some of them have so many in that week.
Yeah. All right, I want to jump to Luke 26:33, and it says, "And when they had come to the place called Golgotha, they impaled him there and the evildoers, the 2 guys with him, and on the right, one on the right and one on the left." Now, I'm not going to go into all the details about this. We already did that last year. We did a really good job last year of going through those things. But now we would like to propose that the crucifixion happened on the Mount of Olives.
Yes.
And there are several reasons why we believe this. One is the fulfillment of the red heifer. So now we're going to go to Numbers and talk about the red heifer.
Okay.
All right, I'm just going to start in 19:1. It says, "And Yahweh spoke to Moshe and Aaron, saying, This is the law of the Torah, which Yahweh has commanded, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, that they bring you a red heifer, a perfect one, in which there is no blemish, and on which a yoke has never come. And you shall give it to Eleazar, the priest, and he shall bring it outside the camp, and shall slay it before him. And Eleazar the priest shall take some of its blood with his finger and sprinkle some of its blood 7 times toward the front of the tent of appointment." Now, this happened on the Mount of Olives.
Right.
There is said to have been 9 red heifers in all of Israel's history. What's interesting about this is everyone involved, the priest, the person who gathers the ashes, everyone is unclean until evening. And then they're clean. So everyone involved in this is unclean until evening. And it reminds me of that generation, right?
Ooh, yeah.
Being unclean, kind of cut off until they have to go outside the camp until evening.
And it has to be
and
dark.
Then they're bright. Yes. And Yeshua says that. He says, evening, it's day now, but evening is coming. That's what you meant, I'm sure. Yes. And all right, now let's look in chapter 6. It says, "And the priest shall take cedar wood and hyssop and scarlet and throw them into the midst of the fire, burning the heifer." Now, the heifer has to be completely destroyed, consumed, for the ashes, because the ashes sprinkled on the people, the little paste that it makes with the water, is what cleanses them.
Right.
Such a picture of Messiah.
Yes.
Right? It's that generation that dealt with Messiah badly. They're unclean until evening. But it's his ashes. It's what he did, the remnant of what he did that cleanses the people.
And he just takes a little tiny bit.
Yes, and we see all 3 of these in the crucifixion. We see the wood, and I would propose that what he carried was cedar wood.
I would second that.
It means strength, to be made strong. And we see the hyssop, what they gave him the gall on. And we see the scarlet, obviously, the blood. But I wanted to talk about something really cool that I found out about scarlet. I decided I really want to look up how they get the scarlet to throw in there. What is that exactly? So here's what I found. When the female, it comes from a worm, and this is how the scarlet is gathered. When the female of the scarlet worm species was ready to give birth to her young, she would attach her body to the trunk of a tree, fixing herself so firmly and permanently that she would never leave it again. The eggs deposited beneath her today were then protected until the larvae were hatched and able to enter their own life cycle. As the mother died, the crimson fluid would secrete from her body, stain her body, and the surrounding wood. What a depiction of what Yeshua did for us on the cross. And I think it's interesting that it's a female worm. You know why? Because we're the ones that should be on the cross. I mean, we're the ones that
he took it for us. Isaiah 53.
Yes. He took it for us so we wouldn't have to. But it's interesting that it's the woman and her children that are blessed through this, right? So it's Yeshua and the bride, that are going to have the children that are blessed through this. Meaning the bride, meaning everyone who is, I don't really know who the bride is. But
you could say Israel's considered a wife. Then we're waiting on a bride. There's a bunch of females, so we don't have to necessarily say it's just one.
It's just the bride.
It's the female role in which Israel holds. Because Israel holds multiple roles. One of them is a female.
Right. And our fruit that we produce, by default, produces children.
Correct.
Because they come and eat the fruit,
Right.
And all right, now going on the whole Mount of Olives theory that we have, let's talk about what happened at the crucifixion.
Okay.
All right. So he was hung on a tree. We know that. He was above the ground, suspended above the ground on a tree, right? Yeah. Now we know that there was darkness.
Yes,
the 6th through the 9th hour. They had darkness. There was an earthquake. We know that. What else? We know that the tombs, that this earthquake rattled the tombs of the righteous around, and at his resurrection, they
on
also,
the third day, they came out
they
too.
came out too. Okay, we have all of these things present. Now, I thought I saw something really cool in Zechariah. Now, let's go to Zechariah 14, starting in 1.
Okay.
It says, see, a day shall come. Now, hang on. I want to say this. This has not happened yet. Okay? So this was not fulfilled with Yeshua on the cross. All right? Okay. This is future, has not happened yet. In fact, all the Jewish scholars, all the rabbis, this is one of the main things they point to that is about to happen, that could happen at any time. Okay. See, a day shall come for Yahweh, and your spoil shall be divided in your midst. And I shall gather all the nations to battle against Jerusalem. And the city shall be taken, the houses plundered, and the women ravished. There's the cursing, right? Yep. Half of the city shall go into exile, but the remnant of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Okay, he always deals with the remnant, right? They're the ones being faithful.
It talks about that too this week in the Torah, about
there'll always be a remnant.
Few that are...
Okay. And Yahweh shall go forth, and he shall fight against those nations, and he fights in the day of battle. And in that day his feet shall stand upon the Mount of Olives, which faces Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall be split in two from east to west, a very great valley. And half of the mountain shall move toward the north, and half of it toward the south. And you shall flee to the valley of my mountain, for the valley of the mountains reaches to Atzel. And you shall flee as you fled in the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, sovereign of Judah. And Yahweh my Elohim shall come, all the set apart ones with you. And in that day it shall be, there is no light, it is dark. Okay, so here we have, in the end, Yeshua with his feet on the Mount of Olives, not suspended in the air, right? His feet are actually touching the mount. Don't you find it odd that they make a point to say that? Yeah. His feet will be standed firm, planted firmly. The first time it wasn't. His feet will be on the Mount of Olives. There will be a great earthquake. Yeah. So great that it's going to split the Mount of Olives, right. One side to the north, one side to the south. It's going to be dark. And it says in 5, Elohim shall come, all the set apart ones with you. There was a resurrection.
I have a question.
What?
So, do you think that darkness is the same darkness in Revelation? Because there's earthquake, there's the darkness.
Oh, on the enemy's kingdom?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because in Egypt, the darkness went on the enemy's kingdom.
Yeah. I think there is going to be, there's going to be like a physical darkness like that. But I also think this is kind of allegorical, because the next verse in 7, it says, and it shall be one day which is known to Yahweh, which is the 1,000 years, one day, neither day nor night, but at evening there shall be light. So it's like, when it's getting dark, and then it's light. And then we have an entire 1,000 years of his ruling and reigning where it's just light. We just walk in his light.
And we talk about how Hebraic prophecy, it goes around. Like you have part of it fulfilled, part of it fulfilled.
That's what this
is. And I can see how a part of this is absolutely fulfilled because there is darkness when he comes the first time. But his feet, like you said, his feet aren't there. So that's kind of the part that says it's not complete.
Right.
But it allows the darkness so that those who are looking are like, wait, these parts of it were fulfilled.
Yes.
Maybe we need to pay attention to this.
That's exactly what I see here is the people who really know the scripture and have studied the scripture and are awaiting Messiah can see these patterns. They understand that he works in patterns.
Right.
They understand it's cyclical. So they see the patterns. They see that coming about, but not quite being fulfilled to the fullness like we're going to see
and partially blinded.
And it's on a small in Judea, right? Yes. But in this one, it's all the nations. Yeah. It's on a more of a global platform.
So,
right?
Is there one that's in Samaria? That's just like the Middle East or something?
That would be the enemy's darkness.
Ooh, yeah.
I bet in Revelation.
Right.
I bet that would be that darkness.
I don't know. It could be. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That would definitely give the 3.
Yeah. Food for thought.
Yeah.
All right. Well, last year, episode 9, maybe. I'll put it right here. Last year's episode, we go into a lot of detail about the crucifixion. This year, I just wanted to see more of a soul level, I guess you would say.
Yeah, the more tucked away secrets.
The tucked away secrets of the Red Heifer and possible Mount of Olives and these 2 prophecies partly being fulfilled and then fully being fulfilled at the end. I know, I can't wait.
I know.
This is such an exciting time to be alive. And that is my prayer every day. Lord, I just want to make it to the end.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's all I have for you today. Join us next week with episode 63. Yes, we hope you have a fantastic week. Shalom!